Hello,
Hello!
and welcome back to Basement Movie Room. Yet again, it is October, and we've done Prisoners of the Ghostland on October 1st, so this is the October 8th video, probably. And it's horror month, obviously, so we watched a horror film that I don't think a lot of people have seen. It is The Void from 2015, I believe. Starring really nobody you really know. It's an indie horror film. The main doctor, Kenneth Walsh, you may recognize from other stuff, and then there's a state trooper that you may recognize from other stuff, and you might, if you watch Letterkenny, recognize Roald from Letterkenny playing a small role in the film as well. So The Void is a cosmic horror film. It's a Lovecraftian horror film. So this police officer, well, the movie starts out at a farmhouse where two guys are killing the people in the farmhouse. One guy escapes, that's Roald, and then it shows them kill a lady and burn her body. And then you flash over to a police officer, local county sheriff type officer, that's resting in his car and gets a call from dispatch just checking in on him. And then the guy that escaped from the house ends up running or crawling out in front of his car, so he picks him up, takes him to the hospital. And the only hospital that's close is this small hospital that's basically closed. Their emergency room is open, but it's very small. There's nobody in it, basically, except for the emergency room, because of a fire that had taken place in the hospital. So they go to that hospital, he takes the guy in, they check the guy out, and then the guy's freaking out, and they give him a shot and make him go to sleep. Meanwhile, you're kind of introduced to the cast of characters. You don't pick this up right out of the gate, but the main nurse in the hospital is actually the sheriff's wife, they're kind of separated. You don't really get much of that information till the end on why they're separated, but I'll leave that to you to watch the movie. So things start getting kind of weird. The sheriff goes outside at some point to see if his radio is working, and there's a random guy in this weird cultish robe with a triangle on the face. You had seen the triangle earlier on a door at the farmhouse. So he goes outside to make the call. This guy attacks him and almost kills him. Stabs him with a knife, but he gets him off of him and goes in. The other two guys from the farmhouse show up coming after the Roald, the drug dealer, or the druggie, because he's been involved, and you come to find out that these two people are a father and son whose mother and small child had been killed by these cult people. Yeah. So a lot of things take place. Ultimately, the cosmic horror starts coming out. You get this one scene with one of the nurses being like infected and killing one of the only other patients in the hospital, and becoming this large tentacle monster that they have to deal with. The doctor gets supposedly killed by the druggie, but come to find out later the doctor's kind of behind all this because he lost his child and is trying to bring people back from death. He gets stabbed in the neck, so we're not quite sure how he lives, except he becomes like a super monster or something later. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it goes into a lot of that. I don't get any further in the plot. I've already pretty much given away who the bad guy is at this point. But the plot just kind of moves along at a horror pace. You got some very classic horror shots, some very amazing practical effects. I'm talking like gory, The Thing level type practical effects. Probably better than The Thing, because The Thing did get a little,
that's all I can
weird
think
at
about
times.
watching this movie was The Thing.
Yeah, it's well within that realm.
And I mean, or Carpenter. I mean, even one of the scenes with that one crazy-looking monster running through that hallway.
Yeah,
that kind of reminded me of that monster in Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Carpenter has influenced the monster design in this.
Yeah, very
there's no doubt.
Influence.
You get very like skeleton-y, like gross, gooey tentacles, that kind of thing. And then you get the main bad guy is like pretty cool looking at the end there with the kind of like almost a black exoskeleton
something
type
out of
thing.
like Hellraiser.
Yeah, something out of Hellraiser for sure. That's a very good comparison. I think.
A lot of nods to the old.
Yeah. There's a lot of nods to old horror. This is definitely a classic horror film, as opposed to like the newer stuff, which is more found footage and things like that we get these days. This is definitely a throwback horror film. Indie horror is kind of in that realm most of the time. So, you get the sheriff and the two guys whose family were killed, and the drug dealer going into the basement to chase after the doctor who kidnapped the wife of the sheriff. And from there, it kind of pushes forward. And it's a pretty quick movie. It's an hour and a half. It moves at a pretty solid pace. There's really no slow parts. I mean, a couple maybe. But it kind of just moves at a clip through all this. And I don't think it loses anything. There's maybe less character development, maybe overall, but it's a horror movie. Character development's never really there in horror movies. But yeah, it's fantastic in my opinion, at least. The effects are great. The story is pretty good. I mean, it's a standard horror type story. People go out on their own, they die. There's also a subplot with a young pregnant teenager that kind of plays out pretty well. It kind of plays into the plot very well, in my opinion. And there's like a nurse in training there and she's almost comic relief, to be honest, most of the movie. Because she's like, I don't know anything, I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. And you kind of get that feeling. So yeah, I mean, it just kind of moves at a pace, and you do get kind of a resolution to the main story. I thought the little extra stuff they added on the end was unnecessary at the end. I'm not going to say what it was, but that little part at the end I thought was kind of unnecessary. They could have left that out. It was fine. It didn't hurt the movie, but it didn't help it either. So I thought that could have kind of been cut right there at the end when the final boss essentially is conquered. They could have left it there. But yeah, I mean, overall, the movie, has the horror tropes in places. But, you expect that. I thought the music was really well done. It was really well used.
Yeah, color space.
Yeah.
Bringing that up, it felt like that.
Yeah, it feels like that. That's cosmic horror as well. That's Lovecraftian. That's, in fact, a Lovecraft story. This is definitely inspired by Lovecraft stuff. I mean, tentacles and interdimensionals and all that stuff, definitely.
It felt, I kept referring to Halloween 2 meets The Thing.
Yeah, it's Carpenter through and through.
Yeah, I mean, it is just...
Yeah, it is Carpenter through and through. These guys definitely wear that on the sleeve of the movie. It's Carpenter for sure. But yeah, the music always... I think the music's almost constant.
It is pretty constant.
Yeah, I don't think it stops very much. Very rarely does the music stop. And it has the swells when, it's having those parts, the swells, the music gets really loud. And
for the flashbacks, they cut it out.
Yeah.
Just so you could,
you gotta
that
focus.
Moment. But it was pretty constant.
The music definitely adds to it. The cast is really good. I mean, they're a bunch of nobodies for the most part, and they're all very good. Nobody does fine. I mean, I can't remember the names of the guys the two guys wrote and directed it. I don't remember. I don't know if they've done anything since. I don't know if they did anything before, but they did a good job. I didn't have any complaints about that. The movie's shot pretty well. Some of the shots, there's the classic dragging the axe horror shot. You get that in like this. You get that in the Crazies. You get that in a lot of other movies. Where there's the dragging of the axe or power or the pitchfork in the Crazies and things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's a terrific horror movie. I would definitely recommend you watch it. It has all the good beats of a good horror movie. Any horror movie has to have those certain beats in it, and and not necessarily jump scares. This is not particularly a jump scare movie. This is a more like in-your-face horror movie where it's just like, we're going to put it out there and you're going to see it, and that's how it's going to.
I think there may have been one jump scare, and that was
maybe one,
and it wasn't really a jump scare.
Yeah, and it was at the end.
It's just kind of like, oh, okay.
It was at the very end, and it wasn't even really a scare.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I would recommend you watch this movie for sure. I don't have any problems with it. I watched it years ago. I'd seen it before. You thought you may have seen it, but I don't.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't
the same.
Yeah, there was another horror movie I saw that was in a hospital like that, and it just
similar.
Yeah, I just saw bits and pieces of that one.
Yeah,
so, but it was not this.
Yeah. Well, I think this is pretty good. I'll let you rate first. I rated last time.
I'm not a big horror movie guy. I mean, I just kind of get bored with them. I don't really get scared by that.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff.
No, I don't either.
It is entertaining. I love the practical effects and stuff like that. But yeah, I think 3-3 for me.
3-3. You're lower than me. I'm gonna go with a 4. I really love this movie. This is kind of like my kind of horror movie. This is what I want to see. So I'm gonna give it a 4.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, it was entertaining.
Yeah.
I
recommend
it to you.
If you're into horror.
So,
it's definitely for somebody who can watch horror and handle the gore, for sure.
And I'm not, I typically wouldn't give horror movies
Yeah.
a good rating just because it's
Yeah.
not really my genre. But
I hear you.
it, you know, even a really good horror movie you'd be pushing for
Yeah.
maybe for me. So
All right.
yeah, I'd recommend it.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.
This isn't the end.
Statistically, you're more likely to die in a hospital than anywhere else.